There's no better feeling than a personal win, and the State Farm Personal Price Plan can help you do just that. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like, to check you have the tickets in your wallet first before you drive 2 hours to the big game. Seriously, you had one job. Now the closest you'll get to the 50-yard line is parking lot D. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
So attention cricket clubs and cricketing family, are you ready to step up to the crease and make a long-lasting impact on your club's legacy? Listen up, we've got something special for you. Introducing Fund It Now, the revolutionary fundraising platform that's changing the game for cricket clubs everywhere. With Fund It Now, clubs of all sizes can create a lasting legacy by selling personalised plaques to their passionate members, supporters and cricket club family.
That's right, Livo. Fund It Now has already left its mark on some of cricket's most iconic venues like Lords, the home of cricket, Somerset County Cricket Club, and with projects such as the Father Time Wall and Somerset Legends Wall.
There's the best part, Hugh. There are absolutely no upfront costs. Fundraising has never been more simple or accessible.
Imagine walking around your club's ground or up to the pavilion and seeing a bespoke wall of dedication, celebrating the history of your club and supporting its future with every plaque. It's like your club's very own shrine to the sport we all love.
And getting involved couldn't be easier. Simply visit Fund It Now's website at funditnow.co.uk to get started today, or drop them an email at info@funditnow.co.uk to learn more. It's time to rally your supporters and start raising money like never before. And don't forget to tell them you heard it from us at the Premier League Cricket Show.
So what are you waiting for? Join the ranks of clubs and grounds like Somerset County Cricket Club and Lords and make your mark on cricket history.
Visit Fund It Now today and start building your fundraising platform. That's funditnow.co.uk. Fund It Now, where passion meets purpose at your cricket club, and begin creating your own legacy. Welcome everybody to one of our match week recordings, and once again brought to you with our partners from MV Play and Woodstock. Joining us today to look back on the season to date, and obviously we're almost done there now, but more importantly to the weekend ahead, we've got a batter who's got over 10,000, in fact almost 11,000 runs in first 11 cricket now, and has been playing in the North Staffs and South Cheshire League for many years. Like we've done the last couple of weeks, we've brought in someone who can give us a slightly neutral view on what's going to happen this weekend in the North Staffs and South Cheshire League. So welcome from Bagnall, Norton, Mr. Justin Mould. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very good, thank you. What an introduction that was. Wow,
I was going to say,
I can't remember the last time I've been called one of them.
He's got 5 wickets as well in his cricket career as well.
They must have been runouts. They couldn't have been by bowling, surely.
That means he's not an all-rounder for definite without a shadow then, isn't it? Hey, thanks for joining us, Justin. You guys have had a reasonable season, I think, at Bagnall, haven't you? So I think you're staying up, which is the most important thing. But overall, how's the season been for you?
Yeah, like you just said, it's we've had a reasonable season. I think, to be honest, we've probably slightly overperformed, considering that we didn't have a pro at the start of the season. He came late, and he's ended up leaving 5 weeks before the end of the season. So taking out a good chunk of games there without a professional, I think we've done really well, to be honest. I think out of the games so far, with 1 to go, I think we've won 10 or 11. and actually competed with some of the top teams that are in the hunt to win it this season. So been really pleased with how we've played, some of the cricket we've played. Great set of lads. We've managed to give a couple of opportunities to some youngsters as well, and some second team cricketers that are trying to develop. So all in all, a really, really successful year for the team and the club as a whole, really.
I mean, you're not too far off, are you? I mean, you finished, well, you're not finished yet, are we? But 274, Hemheath at the top, 335. You know, there's not a lot in it. You know, a few games either way, and you might have been right in the mix.
Yeah, if somebody had said you'd got 274 points with one game to go, I'd have said, well, we're going to finish in the top three. So we've definitely overachieved on the amount of points that I thought we were going to end up with. Having said that, as you've probably noticed, I think, 12 points separates the top 5 or 6 teams. So it just shows that it's been a really tight year, slightly rain affected, but generally anyone's beat everybody, and that goes for us. I think we've played league twice in the league, once in the cup, and beat them all 3 times, yet they're in with a chance of winning on the final day of the season. So it just goes to show that it's a really competitive league this year, which is great. You
don't sound bitter in the slightest about beating the league that way.
They are local rivals as well, so I just needed to get that in there early on.
They are, definitely. Hey, let's have a quick look at the league, because at the top you've got Hemheath. Now, I'm going to make this very clear. If I listen back to my recordings going back to, I reckon, week 8 of the season, they had an absolute shocking start. They were last year's champions, but I think after about 8 weeks, they were literally the worst champions in the country across the 32 Premier Leagues. Something then clicked, Mr. Banks, and they have been on a run and a half, and they'll be deserved winners if they do win it now, wouldn't they?
100%, yeah. We played them last weekend and had a chat with a couple of their lads, and they said, they had, like you just said, they had a really, really poor start. Didn't quite get going until sort of week 7 or 8, and then all of a sudden started to perform, started to learn how to win games of cricket again. And before you know it, I think, I might not be right with this, but I think they've ended up winning 14 out of 15 or something ridiculous, and that's just put them right in the mix. And obviously, with one game to go, they're now top of the league, and it's all in their hands.
First game of the season, Hemheath versus League, which is interesting how the league has panned out. Hemheath bowled out for 38. So
that doesn't happen too often.
Well, there's hope for us all, isn't there? You know, there's hope for us all when results like that happen, and you can bounce back and be sat at the top with one game to go.
Did the lads from Hemheath put anything down to that for that poor start to the season when you were chatting to them last weekend?
I mean, I think to be honest, a couple of people mentioned the weather. Obviously, it was a delayed start, so that doesn't help certain grounds up and down the country. But ground staff were limited to what they could and couldn't do, and how often they could get onto the pitch. So I think that was probably didn't help the situation, particularly being bowled out for 30 odd. So, but no, apart from that, I don't put it down to anything really. I think sometimes you're entitled to a bad day in the season, and that was obviously theirs.
They got their bad days all out the way of early doors, which is the nice way to do it, isn't it? The weather started to come good. Liam Banks clicked in. There's no two ways about it. And as you say, 14 out of 15 now, I think they've won back to back. If you don't win the title on the back of that, you're going to probably be disappointed now, aren't you?
Very much so. I mean, they can't kind of look back at the first start of the season and blame that, but I think that they're the ones that are in form. They're the ones that have remembered how to win. So there's no better game for them really at home against Portal Park, who have been champions, I think 5 out of 7 the last season. So what a great game that'd be to go and watch and to play, and even more so really.
Yeah, it's almost the one that you wish yours was almost rained off to a certain extent, so you can all go down there and watch this one, couldn't you?
Yeah, very much so. It'd be a great one for spectators. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely packed. I mean, Hemheath is on the doorstep of Stoke Football Club as well, so I'm sure that they'll get an extra few people in there watching that in the crowd. So yeah, what a great one to finish the season with.
It's a tight top though, isn't it? I mean, you've in Stone down in 6th. I mean, it would be a very strange set of circumstances, but I've got a feeling that they could potentially win it if all things, if there are abandoned games or ties or something like that. There's 6 teams that mathematically could do it. I think it's really between the top 3. And it's obviously
I agree.
Hand. But,
I agree, and because the way the fixtures have fell, I would say even more so. As you say, mathematically Stone could win it, who are sat in 6th. But the way I see it, when I've looked at fixtures and having played some of the teams already this year, I would say the difficult one to call between Hemheath and Porthill. If I had to put my money where my mouth is, I'd probably say Porthill.
Mm-hmm.
But if Porthill win, it doesn't really matter, because if Leek beat Cheadle anyway, Leek will go and win it. So,
yeah.
But having said that, I think mathematically down the bottom, Cheadle aren't quite safe either. So I'm sure that they'll be wanting to win at all costs as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're sort of what are they? Quick maths: 24, 13 points from 13 points above safety. So yeah, I mean they needed a win if Audley get the job done. Who've they got? Audley have got edit here.
Don't worry.
Checkley, yeah. So that's not an easy game for them. So yeah,
I
mean, and Checkley technically in with a chance as well. So it's a real good one at top of the bottom.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it was last weekend's results made all the difference there, didn't they, Justin? Because Hemheath had a massive win over JG Meekins. I mean, that was one of the biggest scores of the season in the league, scoring 326. The result of the weekend that made the biggest difference, though, was Morishall comfortably beating Checkley, wasn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Going back to the big score for Hemheath, people look at the Meekins ground and say, well, it's really small, it's a tiny ground, it's where most runs should be scored week in, week out. But having said that, anyone that hits over 300 odd is deserved, and there was obviously a ton involved in that as well, as you'd expect. But yeah, there's been a couple of shocks this season. There's been a couple of odd results, and they just keep happening. They just keep springing up on people, and I wouldn't say that we've been involved in too many. I mean, you could argue the fact that we've beaten Leek twice is a bit of an upset, but there's been a couple like that up and down the league, and bar the team that are obviously rock bottom and not having won any, everyone's kind of rocked up to them games and just won. I don't quite know what's gone there, but yeah, a bit of an odd one.
I think the proof in the pudding is that, the fact that the top six are 12 points apart, and with you guys being in 8th place and only being, another 30, 40 points behind, it just shows that everyone really has been beating everyone this season. And anyone who's got into a run of 2 or 3 games thinks they're on the way, and then all of a sudden they lose one.
That's what happened with us. Yeah, we were getting a little bit excited at one point, and we had a little bit of a reality check and remembered that, we were relatively new to that league in comparison to other teams, and try not to get too greedy and just remember what we'd set out to do at the start of the season, and be grateful that we've managed to do that quite comfortably.
I mean, one of the stars of the league and of Premier Leagues, Liam Banks. Talk to us about him. I mean, he bowls, he bats, he dominates games. He just seems to be up at the top of my charts. The last few years that we've been doing this. What's he like to play against?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing he can't do. I think that players that have played against him, players that have played with him, will probably all say the same thing. He's literally an all-rounder that probably there's been worse cricketers than him that have had pro contracts for quite a long time, year on year. Yeah, and he's just fully deserved that, I would say so himself. I mean, to play against, he's very competitive. Doesn't really give too much away. Keeps his cards close to his chest. Comes out with quite a lot of intent. Has a bit of a plan. Sticks to the plan. Often the plan works. And if he doesn't do it with the bat, like he didn't against us last weekend, we got him quite early. You're then sitting having your tea thinking, well, what's he going to do with the ball? What's the damage going to be with the ball? So yeah, he's obviously a massive part of the Hemheath team, and thoroughly deserved all the respect that he's got. But having said that, he's not. I don't think they're a one-man band. They have got some very dangerous players to go alongside him, and you can perform and get 1,000 runs a season and 60 wickets, but I don't think that's enough to win a league. I think you've got to have people around you that chip in and hit runs at the right time, or bowling partnerships, or do something special in the field. But yeah, I mean, Banksy is definitely one of the best local cricketers, along probably with Zen Malik, that I've played. against and had the privilege to play against. Yeah.
On my all-rounders chart, he's second in the country. You've got Joe Pocklington at the top of ours,
really?
Liam Banks is second, and Brindle Ellen's third. So that is 909 odd runs. Play cricket, a few issues here, so this might be spot on, but nearly 1,000 runs, 51 wickets. Absolutely fantastic through the season.
And I think what you're saying there, Justin, last weekend was a great example of that. He came out with intent, scored 55 off 29 balls. He wasn't the star of the show for Hem Heath last week, as Curtis Lally scored 121 off 60 balls. Without that 121 off 60 balls, you can imagine the score was going to be a big difference. But when Liam's come out to bowl afterwards, his figures were 9 overs, 5 maidens, 4 for 8.
Yeah.
I mean, miserly is an understatement.
Yeah, very much so. And I think bowlers at Meekins as well probably be happy to go at sort of 5, 6 and over in most cases. And for him to go at that rate is ridiculous, really. And it almost asks the question, are people almost a little bit intimidated by his stats, by his name? Yeah. Do they just feel like they're not good enough? I don't know. It's really strange. I mean, yes, he's entitled to bowl good balls, but at the end of the day, he is human. And sometimes I do wonder if people give a little bit too much respect sometimes, and that doesn't help and puts you on the back foot a little bit as a player and as a team.
What's he like to face then? What's he doing with the ball?
To be honest, he bowls quite a heavy ball. He trots in. He doesn't particularly burst in from the start of the run-up. Trots in, quite a short, stocky guy. And as he gets to the crease, he's kind of all shoulders. As I say, has a bit of a plan. In my eyes, as a batter, I just know that he's going to keep her up. A few slips in, a couple of people maybe short extra cover. I know he's going to try and kind of bowl at off stump, middle stump, and hit the pads early on. He's not going to bowl anything wide, anything short. It's going to be at you. He's going to make you play early on. He did that to me 2 weeks ago at their place, and I managed to get him away off the mark for a 4 through mid wicket. But I think 5, 6 balls later, he went and wrapped me on the pad, just one that nipped in off the seam, played all around it. I think I'd started to walk off before the umpire had even put his finger up. I was that out. So, it just keeps you guessing a little bit, really. And, don't get me wrong, he didn't really do a great deal with the ball against us in terms of, getting it to swing or nip. But he just asks them questions. He's just relentless. He just never gives you anything at all to hit, really. And I think that's, in itself is dangerous. I mean, whether somebody decides to take a different approach and use the feet, even with the keeper up, or try and walk across the stumps and back themselves to get something on it. I think people are going to start to resort to that soon, because you can't just stand there and let him bowl at you for 9 overs. It's ridiculous.
What do the pros do? I mean, the guys coming out of pro cricket, he sounds like the perfect Premier League bowler. That we see him up and down the country, this style of bowler, and he seems to be the best of them, or amongst the best of them. But then obviously making that step up against pros potentially on better pitches. This doesn't necessarily work at that level. So what are the pros doing?
I think from what I've seen, the pros that we've had playing for us against him have always tended to struggle. I mean, Bagnall in itself in the years gone by has always been bowler friendly, so that's probably not helped any batters against him at our place. But I don't think he does anything different, and I think that sometimes they get in a habit of being told by the skipper or by players or by looking at stats, or do I need to see him off? Do I need to just get through his spell? And then I think they get themselves into trouble sometimes as well, rather than just backing their ability to go out and play as they normally would.
That's interesting.
Do you think he's potentially not had enough NCCA opportunities with Staffordshire for all his stats, has he?
No. And I'm not quite sure why, or if there's any other reasons behind that. But he's certainly one that's deserved ample more opportunity than others, that I could think of that spring to mind.
Sure, definitely. Hey, let's have a quick look at one or two other leagues around the country, shall we, Hugh, and what's been going on. And I made some notes before today, and just some interesting stats. So if Hem Heath win the league this weekend, would you believe they will only be the second club in the country to retain a Premier League so far this season? The only other one to retain it is Burnley, who last Sunday won the Lancashire League. And as my friends have pointed out up in Lancashire, they won it because it rained. because Burnley were due to play Darwin in a top of the table clash. Doesn't matter, they won it. It rained for both sides at the end of the day, didn't it? So Hem Heath have got the opportunity to be one of very few clubs to have retained it there. There are 7 champions still yet to be declared this around the country now, Hugh. 3 of those are guaranteed to happen this weekend. But 1 or 2 others still we've got to wait a weekend after. Looking at the weather, thankfully, what we haven't talked about it for a couple of weeks. It looks as though it might dry out for the weekend. It looks as though we might get some decent weather around the country for the likes of the North Staffs to finish off. The other one that I'm looking forward to seeing finish off this weekend is East Anglia, where Sawston and Babraham, they just need to win this weekend. A bit Copdock and Old Ipswich in a second place to win the East Anglian League. I think when you look down the rest of the leagues, they've all more or less come to a conclusion as we expected 2 or 3 weeks ago, haven't they?
Yeah, things just split apart there. The Burnley game, it's a real disappointment. Lancashire League do have a habit of playing on a Sunday, and it often seems to have worked against them this season. Games around the country have worked on a Saturday, and then Sunday seems to have been a bit crap. So other years, it possibly works out well for them. I think last year, it was a bit better. But but there were a lot of people around the Burnley area jumping up and down, doing dances, trying to make it rain, I've heard. And then obviously with Jimmy Anderson coming in for them next season, they're going to be even stronger, aren't they? So, start that rumour there. Well, no.
Well, I'm going to put it on our forum and just see how far it goes.
I think if we just start the rumour that it's happening, if we just lie, create that rumour, surely then somebody has to respond to it, and that then ask the question. So I think I'm all for, should we commit to it? I think we should.
Although he did pick up an injury, he picked up a calf injury, would you believe, bowling in the nets last week?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So maybe the old body's just not quite there. And could he put up with those pitches around the rest of Lancashire? Justin will be able to tell us. It's not exactly the same, is it? Turning up at Stoke on a Wednesday night, as they say in football. Turning up at Darwin on a Sunday versus turning up at the Oval is not quite the same, is it?
Not quite.
That game was at Darwin as well, so it's not like Burnley left the covers off. Certain other clubs around me potentially doing that, but
definitely.
The other league, it's just a bit unfortunate, that, isn't it?
Yeah, the other league I want to look at very sort of briefly is the extraordinary finish to the game between Northern and Southport and Birkdale at the weekend. For all intents and purposes, Northern were done. Until a certain Mr. Tom Sefton came on, took 3 wickets in 4 balls, and it was a tie. And okay, Northern are now still 29 points behind Ormskirk, and it will take quite a miracle for them to win the Liverpool district competition. Results have got to go in their favour, but they were done, weren't they, in that game?
It's just a remarkable finish. So just to set the scene, Southport and Birkdale, it's at Northern. Southport and Birkdale chasing 135 with 3 wickets in hand. The last ball of the penultimate over goes for 6 to tie the scores. The body language from the Northern team is not great. One to win, scores are level. First ball, Kevin Dalmeida, the Southport pro, I think he is, it's just one of the worst shots in cricket. It's horrendous, absolutely horrendous. You've got one to win.
Was he on 60 odd not out at the time?
65 not out. It's just, it's quick cricket gone bad. It's embarrassing. So he's got 1 to win. He just needs to knock it. Everyone's happy. Job done. Well, they're not happy, but, we're off. We'll have a beer. Cue hoots of giggling from the crowd on the slightly out of sync video. Then next ball, dot. And then the next ball, again, 1 to win. Another horrendous swipe across the line. All of a sudden, panic stations cue even more hoots of laughter. And then I'm not sure about this, a stumping off the last ball. This one's actually a slightly better shot. It's a lovely ball from Thomas Sefton. And, I'm not sure actually it's out. I'm not looking at the video. I'm not sure about it, but...
Oh, I'll let you discuss that with James Cole on Sunday.
Well, we'll talk to him about that. But the video, his foot doesn't go further back, so whether his foot stays out of the ground. But it just sums up the season. I think teams, something like Southport and Birkdale, they look like they're probably going down. They need to do a lot. That would have been a massive result for them, and just if you're losing games like that or tying games like that, that's a killer, isn't it? It's absolutely brutal.
Got to ask, Justin, have you ever seen a game where you've lost 3 wickets in the last over and ended up losing or a tie?
Not exactly like that, but there was a game not so long ago, and I can't think who it was against now, where I think we needed 3 or 4 off the last over with 4 wickets, I think it was. And we ended up losing 2 or 3 wickets and knocking it off with 1 ball to go. And I was just sat there with my head in my hands thinking, what are we doing? And I think I probably saw some similar shots. People trying to whack it over the farmer's field instead of just playing a little bit of tap and run and getting over the line. So we left it to our number 10, I think it was in the end, and he got a little thick edge through gully for 4.
Nice.
Hugh and I have a theory, and I'd love to see it happen. We think that NV Play are missing a trick here. We think they should have dressing room cam, so that we can just see what the hell goes on in those dressing rooms when this happens. That would be absolutely hilarious, wouldn't it, to see the
as long as the leagues couldn't use that video footage for ban people and record what they're saying, then
no, it's just for our use. We're not talking about the leagues,
just for entertainment purposes. I'll tell you what, just thinking back to that game, what started that off was our pro was batting at the time, batting nice on 30 or 40, and they didn't have enough men inside the ring, and I'd spotted it from the sideline, and I was just thinking, I wonder if he'd spotted it. So on the next delivery, he thought, well, this is a free hit, I might as well try and send it to space, and got bowled, and straight away said to the umpire, there's not enough men inside, and the umpire was just there looking around, kind of dawdling a little bit, and at that point, all the people had come in to celebrate, the fields were celebrating. Umpires had no idea where people were fielding in the first place. It just gave him out. And that's what started 3 wickets in the last over. Yeah, and the pro, that would have been a good camera opportunity, I think, actually, for the pro to where his South African accent got very, very thick after being given out, let me tell you that.
Well, the key is, did he start speaking in Afrikaans?
Yeah.
That's what most South Africans start doing when they're not happy. They switch straight into Afrikaans. We can't understand the word they're saying. I've got colleagues who are South African, so I can say that because I understand half of their swear words anyway. That's a different matter altogether. But you talk about free hits. We have a free hit every week on this show, and he's with us now. And it's time for us to talk about the ECB Performance of the Week with our friend Mr. Matt Taff.
Oh, such a clutch off-season pickup, Dave.
I was worried we'd bring back the same team.
I meant those blackout motorized shades.
Blinds.com made it crazy affordable to replace our old blinds.
Hard to install?
No, it's easy. I installed these and then got some for my mom. She talked to a design consultant for free and scheduled a professional measure and install.
Hall of Fame son.
They're the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings in the world.
Blinds.com is the GOAT.
Shop Blinds.com's primetime kickoff event. Save up to 50% off select styles, plus doorbusters. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Opill, the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Opill is FDA approved, full prescription strength and estrogen-free. Plus, there's no prescription needed. Finally, the days of needing a prescription for birth control are over. Opill is available online and at most major retailers. Take control of your health and reproductive journey with Opill. Birth control in your control. Use code BIRTHCONTROL for 25% off your first month of Opill at Opill.com.
So welcome, Mr. Matt Taff from Crickex. It's Performance of the Week time. Matt, how are you doing, mate?
Not too bad, thanks, guys.
I see you didn't end up putting the gloves on at the weekend, it looks like.
No, we had a couple of late dropouts. We'd rather not talk about it. Gave 5 debuts out.
5?
On Saturday. Yeah, so there was about 5 of them that had bypassed the second team, gone straight from third team to first team. So
right.
They got the debuts on Saturday. So
they all willing? Were they willing participants in this decision?
They were, to be honest. They put their hand up to said they was available. Not many did, so they were in.
And then being bowled out for 89, it wasn't exactly the most auspicious start for them.
It was a bit of a tough day at the office, to be honest, but we'll move on.
The nice thing is you played at one of the nicest grounds around. Love being at Sefton Park, been there many times over the years. 2 teams who are quite sort of level in the middle of the league. And you had Mr. Croft playing for you as well. So, you had a decent side out there, but it's just one of those weekends, isn't it?
It really was. It was destined for me and Crofty to score runs, and we both didn't. But no, it's a great ground, Sefton Park. It's just always wet.
It is.
It had rain for about 5 days, and the ball was soaking early doors. But it's a great ground.
Tell me, I've looked at your scorecard. Mr. Mulligan, was he a debutant?
No, he's former first team captain, Premier League winner. Back.
What a shame that is, because he was the highest scorer. It would have been a nice story, that, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been. But no, he's been around for years. So won the comp back to back with Lytham, and just a club legend, to be honest.
Brilliant. Hey, let's look at one or two other legends around the country who've been doing the bits and pieces for the Cricket stable at the weekend with the bat.
Yeah, so leading the way, West Indian Monkin Hodge for Handsworth. He's gone 135 against Solihull Blossomfield. Thelina Dilshan for Warrington. He's gone 126, and he has just re-signed for Warrington. And by the time this pod goes out, I'm sure it'll be announced. It's being announced tonight. But so
you're in charge of socials, so he should be.
Yeah. He's blasted 100 and then signed for next year. Australian Patrick Moore for Winchurch Hill, 116. And then New Zealander Cole Briggs for Harpenden, another 100 for him, 110 off 117 against Potters Bar. And then Avishka Thurindu for Bracebridge Heath. Again, he scored something stupid, about 2,000 runs this year. He's just finished his stint with the club, 96 of 82. And that rounds up the batters.
Nice to see Cole Briggs with that ton as well. Harpenden winning the title down there, finishing the season off really strongly. What else we got in the rest of the country there, Hugh? I think there's a very familiar name at the top of this week's list.
There is. I'll leave you with bated breath for that one. But yeah, we've got 2800s. There's obviously a bit of weather about. Sunday's Lancashire League obviously wash out and nothing happened there. But there's a few rather familiar names lurking, and Mr. Bryn Llewellyn is at the top after having a nice chat with us midweek. He obviously thought he'd finish on a high, 157 off 116 balls for Clifton Lions. He's done remarkable, so he's top of the run scoring in the country.
And not only did he score his highest score of the season, it was the highest score in the Yorkshire North League of the season, and it guaranteed Clifton Alliance the winning of the title.
Yeah, he's just been remarkable, hasn't he? And for a lad from Ipswich, nobody really heard of. He's been absolutely fantastic.
Hang on. For those who haven't listened to Overseas of the Crease, caveat: Ipswich, Queensland.
He's not a tractor boy, no. William Wright for Lindham, 153 off 136 in the Lincolnshire Prem. There's been a lot of hundreds in that league this year. Horsford Neil Hornbuckle, 141 off 123 in the East Anglia Prem. Mahaiman Majid Castle Eden, 134 there in the North East Prem. And Harry Vestige rounds out the top five, 133 off 129. Honourable mention, Sam Drury at Driffield, a different Drury this time. I think there's three of them. His brother, I assume it's his brother, failed this weekend, so he decided to bang 100 for them. And we've got a few other, I think Joe Gatting, who's just come in to Great Witchingham towards the end of the season, hit another 100, and he has hit in 4 innings 387 runs, 54, 128 not, 99, 106 not. It's not very 93, but yeah, so he's been a hell of a signing for them towards the end of the season, and has just cemented their sort of finish.
Bryn, top of the charts again. He has taken a lead over Alec Drury there. I don't think he's going to be beaten. I don't think there's anybody who'll score enough runs between now and the end of the season to beat him. And Bryn will end up as the highest run scorer in Premier League across the entire country, it looks like. But let's get across to the bowlers, Mr. Taff. What have your lot been doing from the Cricket stable with the bowlers?
Yeah, as you just touched on, there was a lot of weather around. A few of the leagues have finished. A couple of the pros have gone home now for various camps and first-class seasons. But the only 5-wicket haul of the weekend was former India under-19s Mohit Jangra, 5 for 19 against Highfield against St Helens Town. He's a decent player. We've come on the receiving end of him early in the year, so and we're due to play Highfield last game, so I'm sure he'll be home. Is
that you sure he'll be home, or you hope he's at home?
Hoping he's home.
There you go.
Yeah, so he's a serious player. And then Malisu Saboto for Beckenham, 4 for 20. He backed that up with 70 odd in the first inning as well. So an all-round good game for him. Mani Sankamura-Singha, 4 for 26 for Philadelphia, topping off a serious year for him up in the northeast. And then it's just been various forfers to finish us off. So I'm sure you'll pip us with that.
Yeah, definitely pipped that nationally, but again, not that many fifers compared to previous weeks, has there been, Hugh?
No, 35. We normally get, 50, 60, don't we? So there's 35 with the leagues finishing and so forth. Best is Bilawal Iqbal, 8 for 18, Castle Eden against Tynedale in the North East Prem. And then close to us here, Dusty Melton, 8 overs, 7 wickets for 17 for Ockbrook against Rolleston in a rather one-sided game there. I think Rolleston bowled out for 52. Matt Ryan, St Asaph against Gressel Park in the North Wales Prem, 7 for 24. Suleiman Akhtar for Datchet, 5 overs, 6 for 11 against Oxford Downs. That was some performance to finish in there. Oxford Downs bowled out for 121. So I assume those have come quite quick. I'm just looking at the scorecard here. He's where are we? Yeah, the openers didn't get too many. Then Stephen Naylor and Suleiman Akhtar finished the job there. And then rounding out the top 5, Charlie Wilson at Denby, 9 overs, 6 for 21 against Dunstall. And that was a fairly low-scoring game as well. A couple of other honourable mentions. We've got Daniel Pietro, the Lower House pro, correct? Yeah. Subbing for Fleetwood. He had a hell of a game. I think runs and wickets. So there's some sub-pro signing there. And then, Thomas Sefton down there with his 6 for 52 off 22 overs. We might hear and see a bit more about him in the next couple of weeks. And Josh Cantrell, who's a name that I think he's either Suffolk captain. Bury St Edmunds, 5 for 13 as well. So there's a few famous names lurking down the bottom. A few famous club cricket names.
I'll just put one more in there down that bottom end. But 5 for 11 for Rory Hayden from Leek, who has been a bowler and a half this year for Staffordshire, for Leek. He's getting his chance with Derbyshire in the twos right now. He missed out actually on the Staffordshire versus Berkshire NCCA final because of playing for Derbyshire twos. I mean, he was due to play for Staffordshire in the T20 final the weekend, but unfortunately was rained off. And Rory's had a great end to the season, and he may still have a say in the North Staffs and South Cheshire League this weekend, because obviously Leek are playing Cheadle and have a chance of still potentially winning the league. I think the other name I wanted to point out and sort of picked up along the way, we've got Neil Hornbuckle, who scored 141 for Horsford, took 2 for 3 in 4 overs as well. And a little bit further down, Cheshire captain Harry Dearden, 70 runs for Oxton and 5 for 28. So some good names who, it's that classic one, isn't it, where, class is permanent and form can be temporary for an event. All the top players are really up there at the moment. 2
lads with forfers and hundreds in Chinaka, Rinsiri at Rushton in the Northants League, and Jason Loggin, 105 and 4 wickets there. So there's some really serious all-round performances this weekend.
Absolutely. And we've already put our poll out on Twitter. We've got 4 names up there. Not surprisingly, Bryn Llewellyn is on there. We've got Bilawal Iqbal, Dusty Melton, and Dan Salpietro have all gone on our poll for the ECB Performance of the Week. All justifiably good opportunities for them to win. So thanks once again, Mr. Taff. We've only got, Mr. Taff, 2 more weeks of the Performance of the Week to go. What are we going to do with you in the winter is the question.
I think we're going to focus on the players heading out to Australia, aren't we, in New Zealand?
Absolutely. There's going to be plenty of Cricket ex-players out there, isn't there?
Yeah, there really is. There's an awful lot heading out over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So great experiences for them. They're looking forward to see them put some performances on the pitch.
And the other question that you need to, obviously, is what do you do with fast bowlers in the winter? I mean, like in Blue Peter back in the day, they used to get the tortoise and they'd put it in a box with some hay and they'd shut it down and it would be, put it to bed for the winter. Do we do that with fast bowlers? I think that's something we could do. It might help them. They emerge in April. Angry fast bowlers, they emerge from their box ready to go.
exactly. They can try something out there. There'll be plenty of different paths they can go down, but no,
That might not be one of them.
no, yeah. But no, very jealous of them. Everyone heading out, to be honest.
Very good.
Hey, don't worry, you've got plenty of visits to IKEA coming up, mate.
All done. Moved into the new house on Friday, so
Ooh,
you're lucky I'm at Worcester on Sunday.
And on that note, see you at Worcester.
See you at Worcester.
So thanks again to Matt Taff, and we'll get back to Justin and talking things all North Staffs and South Cheshire, eh, Hugh?
That's right, yeah. Just looking at Justin's sort of record. He came into Bagnall Norton. So Bagnall and Norton cricket clubs merged. And then were you brought in as skipper at that sort of point of merging, or is that a few years?
Yeah, they merged in 2015.
Yep.
I was still at my previous club, Whitmore, at the time, as captain there in the Premier. And I didn't actually join in 2015. No, I joined in 2016. I had a call from a club member at the time in the winter, asked if I'd fancied a challenge. And yeah, stupidly said yes. So I ended up dropping down from the Prem down to Div 3. So I had a couple of meetings with them, dropped down to Div 3. I wasn't captain the first year. I actually took over captaincy about halfway through the season, and we finished a couple of points off promotion, and then started the captaincy full year the season after.
Right, and that was a project. Basically, the project was to get Bagnall Norton into the Prem.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was a long-term project, and it happened a lot quicker than we anticipated. I think we ended up with 3 back-to-back promotions, so 3 to 2, 2 to 1, 1 to the Prem. And when we'd sat down around the table, we almost felt as if we'd done it a bit too quick, and it wasn't meant to happen. It sounds ridiculous, really, but we just clicked, and the team gelled, and results and weather went our way, and all of a sudden we found ourselves second in Division 1, which is now the Prem B, with 1 game to go, playing against top, which was Burslem at the time. And it was pretty much theirs unless they decided to win the toss and do something stupid, which they did. And we ended up getting more points than them and winning it. And we were sat scratching our heads thinking, what's just happened over the last 3 years?
Yeah. Yeah. And how, were you prepared, to make that jump? We've seen the standard, particularly 1 to Prem, it is a big jump in some leagues, and I don't know what it is for every league, but were you prepared? Did you struggle initially in those first years? Did players have to come and go? Did you have to get new blood in?
Yeah, the turnover of players was more than we would have wanted, just simply because we didn't want to go up and back down again. Mm-hmm. I felt like from Div 3 to 2, we were fine with an addition of a different pro, maybe one other bowler. From 2 to 1, we strengthened again by 1 or 2 players, but kept the core of the team. But what we found was that the core of the team that got us promoted from 3 were kind of older blokes whose sons were coming through, and they didn't really want to play that high competitive cricket anyway, so they were happy to take a bit of a backseat. But yeah, the turnover in players had to change because we just wouldn't have been able to cope. The COVID year was a bit of a blessing in disguise because we went into the Prem in the COVID year, half a season, no promotions, no relegations, and we finished bottom. And it was great for me because I didn't have to, it sounds horrible, but I didn't have to start afresh and and start a team from scratch and say to 6, 7 players, oh, by the way, thanks, but you're not good enough. Or, do you know what I mean? I didn't have to have them difficult conversations. It kind of spoke for itself. We finished bottom for a reason. And I think it gave people that insight as to, I've never played cricket before, they definitely need to strengthen. And that kind of spoke volumes. And that's what we did. Went and strengthened and managed to stay in the Prem for a couple of seasons quite comfortably.
Very good, yeah. And what's the next season looking like for you? Are you looking at plans already? Is that, or are you going to have a bit of a break before you?
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, as a captain, I don't think you really ever switch off. My switch off was a couple of years ago when I stepped down as captain, but then a few family circumstances, situations changed, personal life changed. So I was able to take that back on board again this year. But yeah, you don't ever really switch off. You're always thinking throughout the season, played against them, would they fit into my team? Do I need to have a conversation with them? Thinking about anyone that might be leaving or being offered something somewhere else at a different club that you're struggling to fit into your team. So yeah, we've definitely had a few conversations at the moment about who we'd like or what type of player we need. I mean, for me, I'd like the same professional back. I can't have him arriving 2 or 3 weeks later. Can't have him going 5 weeks early. So I've got to sort something there, whether we get stand-ins or whatever. But I'd like to get a few amateurs sorted first and secured, and then drop a pro into that mix and build around the core really, and drop a pro into that.
By the nature of the changes you've been through, Justin, you've got quite a young side now, haven't you?
Very much so, yeah, very much so. And that showed on Saturday, where we played a lad called Alex Dodd, who, I mean, he's 17, and I was playing first team cricket at 15, but he's 17. He's relatively new to cricket. He's now had a full season in the second team. I think he's the highest wicket taker, by far the most controlled bowler, and he had a chance at the weekend against Stone and was unfortunate not to walk away with 2 wickets. We had a keeper that wasn't a keeper at the time, and he dropped an absolute dolly. So he would have walked away with 2 and they would have been the Stone captain, and he ended up getting their pro. So, great signs ahead, really. And we've got a bit of a gap now up until another 2 years probably. But those lads will hopefully come through and again, blood them through to make it even younger.
And that's what I've been hearing on the grapevine, that the junior system's been burgeoning as well, because as a club gets bigger and grows, if you haven't got that junior system coming behind you, it's not, you're not going to make it, are you? But yours has been growing over the last few years as well, hasn't it?
It has. We found it difficult. We're not particularly in the catchment area in the middle of a having housing estates. We're out in the sticks a little bit. So we are competing against some very good, well-established junior setups around us, like Meekins and End and the League, etc. So we're always going to find it tough. But, hats off to the guys who turn up every Friday, and volunteer and get involved and make sure that they're putting their time and effort into the juniors. I tried to a bit myself, because obviously we've all been there. We've all been a junior needing people to coach us. So it's nice to put that back in as well. But yeah, we're heading in the right direction, and we've been successful. We've got people heading teams. Hopefully we're going to have a girls/women's team as well in the near future. That's something that we're quite big on sorting this winter. So yeah, looking at that.
And one of the credits I will give to Bagnall Norton, and I've done this a number of times through the season, it's something that we talk about, Q and I, regularly. You've got a great guy looking after your socials in Alfie. It just seems to be the case again that clubs that are burgeoning, clubs that are the biggest clubs are doing well. They need that social. They need that guy who can take the photos, put the socials. It makes all the difference to the club, and I'm sure you've seen that since you merged the clubs in 2015. Yeah, very much. So he's done a great job. Considering probably 4 or 5 years ago, he wasn't really around the club as much as he would have liked due to health conditions. He's a brilliant asset to the club. He just gets involved. He helps with the ground. He does the socials like you've just mentioned. He's there training in the week. He's there. Last person standing at the bar on a Saturday. It's the exact type of people that you need in a cricket club, and he's done a great job. And it just shows how much we're developing and growing, and the amount of volunteers, I suppose, we've got that are willing to try and move the club forward. You've been around the Premier League for a number of years now, then, Justin. It's one of our favourite questions we ask week in, week out to a lot of people. How do you think the strength of the North Staffs and South Cheshire Premier League is today to 5 years ago, 10 years ago? It's a good question. I think it's probably fair to say the standard isn't as good as it was 5 or 10 years ago. You could probably put that down to a number of reasons. Maybe one, no disrespect, but the pros that we get over now may not be as high quality as the pros that we used to get. So that's probably one reason. I also think that a lot of people dropped out of cricket because of families, having children, work. The amount of time that you spend a day at cricket wasn't ideal for family situations, etc. So I think that the standards probably dropped. Getting children into cricket is a massive one as well. I mean, I remember going along, watching uncles, dads, stepdads, etc. And it was just packed full of your mates, and you just used to play cricket from the time you arrived there at 10 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night when you're told you were going home, and it was too dark to play cricket anyway. But I think that the amount of children in the game has probably reduced a lot as well. So I'd say that the standards dropped, but I'd like to think that there are still some excellent players, amateur players around, like we just mentioned a few earlier on with Liam Banks and Zen, etc., that are still making it competitive and making the sport thrive.
Yeah, I mean, Zen's a a nice story. He's been dominating for quite a long time. Picked up by Warwickshire, 2-year contract via the South Asian Cricket Academy and staffs. Just a real good news story for club cricket as a whole. I don't think he had the greatest of starts with professional contract. I think did he get a duck first?
No, he's probably annoyed the fact that he got offered that, because since he got offered the contract, he struggled in the bat a little bit. But you don't lose the talent that you've got, and I'm sure that he's going to come good. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. What's
he like? In terms of playing against him, I've heard some great things about him. Were you scratching your head as to why he wasn't a pro?
As I'm sure many other people were as well. Yeah. I've played against him predominantly. I have netted with him when staffs and the staffs development lads got together a couple of winters ago, and I was giving him some throwdowns, and I think I took about 20 steps back and thought, I don't want to get one of these. And I think I started off by throwing in the ball, just as you would to like a normal club cricketer, nice gentle half volleys that he can just make himself feel good. And within about 3 balls, he was like I wanted to throw it. I wanted to throw the ball at me as if you're trying to take a run out. I was like, oh, right, okay. And ended up just launching it as hard as I could at him. So that kind of shows the quality that he is as well, and he's pushing himself, and that just goes to show with the contract that he's been offered that he's head and shoulders above what I'm used to and the standard that I've ever been.
Well, the other question that pertains to that is we always ask the same thing. Around your league, is there any youngsters that you've seen that you can go, right, this is one to watch? You might not have the stats there now because they don't all have the stats, but is there anyone, in that 16, 17, 18-year-old who's breaking through in the Premier League, you're thinking, got to keep an eye on them?
I feel like I'm going to give my transfer secrets away by answering this question, because surely everyone's going to listen to this and want to snap up the players that I want.
Well, if you don't want to give them away, that's absolutely fine.
It's fine. No, of course I will. It's there's the lad I mentioned earlier, Alex Dodd, who's coming through our ranks. I really rated. It's the first time I actually got to watch him on Saturday, and I was really, really impressed with his laid-back attitude. Nothing really fazed him. He bowled as if he was bowling at a mate. Even though he was bowling at the Stone captain and a pro, he just ran in and did the job I asked him to do. He's got a really good attitude. So he's definitely one to watch, and I think he'll go far. There was a lad, actually, we played against a lad for Caverswall in a cup game, Lewis Wright, at our place. Although we ended up hitting about 300 against him, it didn't do him any favours at all, because he bowled very, very nicely, and he batted lovely as well. He ran in, bowled seam up, hit the deck really hard, and I was batting against him at the time, and he had a yard of pace, to be fair. He bowled it nicely, and he tied me up a couple of times and almost got me out. And when he came into bat, as I say, he batted nicely as well. It was really pleased with him as well, and thought that he shaped up really nice, and he's one to watch, I thought, as well.
Yeah, and that's what this programme, this show that we put together week in, week out is all about. We want to look back at what's happened during the season. We want to look forward, but we all want to hear that name where we, at some point in a year, 2 year, 3 years time, we can go, do you know what? We interviewed a guy last week, Bryn Llewellyn, who, to be frank, absolutely bloody no one had heard of. But he's only been the number 1 run scorer in the entire country in Premier Leagues across the whole country. So, he's an Aussie who's come over and played pro, but he's been chased down by a local lad, in theory, by one of the Drury boys up at Driffield, hasn't he, Hugh?
Yeah. I mean, the one that sticks out to me this year is, and I actually recommended mentioning, but just talking about Matty Hurst, talking about how much time he had when he was playing cricket. And I don't think he put up the big score. I mean, just look at Matty Hurst now. He's just taken off. I mean, that's future superstar. Set status, the kid's 20. He's smashed the 100. He got run out stupidly on 90 yesterday when nobody else in the Lancashire team could get a run, the day before, wherever it was, and these lads are coming through, and we probably get first look. And we hear these stories about, wow, this kid's good, this kid can do this.
Yeah. There is a Newcastle and Hartshill Cricket Club are getting already promoted from Prem B, coming up to Prem A next year. And by the sounds of it, I've not seen him with my own eyes, but by the sounds of it, they've got a lovely opening batter called Rohan Valen.
About Burnley,
He's
been on my radar for a few years. Yeah, he's a Denson lad, I think. He's
yes, that's right. Yeah, it'd be nice to see him and play against them next year, actually, because I've heard a lot of good things about him as well. So, and
hasn't got quite the season he had the previous year, but he's still very, very young.
Yeah, and that's looking at your league specifically, that's a great club to be being promoted again, isn't it? It's one of the better known, larger clubs in the area.
Yeah, very much so. Nice club, well established, good ground to play at. Played against and with a few of their players before. Obviously, they've had a bit of an influx of players from Porthill Park Cricket Club. So, but I've got a couple of old mates there that I've played with at Whitmore as well. So it'll be nice to see some familiar faces and welcome them to the Premier. Hopefully, they find the feet and do well. It's nice to see actually a different name in the top flight, because I feel the last sort of 5-6 years it's been Burslem, Meakins, Elworth, up, down. And I feel as though it's nice to have that fresh face in there. It's looking like Ulsager / Eccleshall, I think, are going to be the other team that come up. I know Eccleshall were with us a couple of years ago, but I think it'd be nice to see a different club like Ulsager make it as well, and another new ground to go to for some of our lads.
Absolutely. Hey, so we'll come towards the end of the recording now. Let's go back to the most important question. Let's not beat around the bush. You've got Leek playing Cheadle on Saturday. You clearly expect Leek to win that.
I'm going to put my money where to say Leek are going to win that. Yeah.
You've got Checkley playing Audley. Checkley had a bit of a weak weekend last weekend. I think the problem is they had the beer in gym weekend the weekend before, didn't they? So you can see Checkley beating Audley at home on Saturday.
I think Checkley will beat Audley. Yeah.
Which, if that's the case, that means we are literally down to Hemheath versus Porthill, and Justin Mould, Bagnall, Norton. Put your money where your mouth is. You're going to say it's Porthill Park?
I'm trying not to change my mind. I know I said Porthill at the start of the show. Do I stick with it? Do I go with my gut instinct? I'm going to stick. I'm going to stick and say Porthill. I'm going to stick and say Porthill. I've got to. Yeah, I'm going to stick.
I feel like we're on the generation game here.
That doesn't mean I want them to win it. That just means I think they will win it.
Definitely. Hey, what we'll do is we're going to put a poll out on Friday for this, because I think that's it's one of those leagues that you're going to go to that end of the season. Bear in mind, 2 weeks ago, the team who were in top spot in the West of England Premier League, Bath, ended up in 4th after their final game of the season because it was just as close. So it all, I spent that weekend looking at play cricket and just those games. I'll be doing exactly the same for the North Staffs in South Cheshire at the weekend. Thanks very much for your time, Justin. Appreciate you jumping in during your lunch hour. And
cheers, guys. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Premier League Cricket Show. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future episodes and stay updated on all the latest news, views and discussions from around the cricket's Premier Leagues. And be sure to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at TPL Cricket Show on both. Join the conversation, share your thoughts and connect with us and your fellow Premier League cricket fans. And hey, if you enjoyed the show, why not show us some love? Leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast platform, as it helps other potential listeners to find us when they're searching for cricketing podcasts. Thanks again for being part of the Premier League Cricket Show family, and until next time, have a good one.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.